Well, son, since you haven't learned to respect your elders, it's time you learn to respect your betters. Now you understand. Anything goes wrong, anything at all. Your fault, my fault, nobody's fault. It don't matter. I'm gonna...
There'll be no locks or bolts between us, Mary Kate, except those in your own mercenary little heart. You better marry that girl, Matt.
Yeah, I think I... When are you gonna stop telling people what to do?
John Wayne, the Duke, a name that echoes through the canyons of Hollywood history. For over 5 decades, he was the face of the American frontier, rugged, fearless, and larger than life. With a career spanning over 175 films, he wasn't just a movie star. He was an icon, a symbol of grit, honor, and the unyielding spirit of the West. But even legends must face their final sunset. In his last days, John Wayne fought a battle tougher than any outlaw he faced on screen. What secrets did the Duke carry in his final moments? What struggles did he endure as the cameras stopped rolling? And what were the heartfelt words he left behind that brought his loved ones and a nation to tears? This is the untold story of John Wayne's final ride. From a grueling cancer battle that tested his iron will to a star-studded farewell that united friends and rivals across Hollywood and beyond, this is a story of courage, vulnerability, and a legacy that refused to fade. What did John Wayne whisper to his family in his final hours? And why did his last film feel like a haunting echo of his own life? Marion Robert Morrison, better known to the world as John Wayne, was one of the most enduring icons of American cinema. Born on May 26, 1907, in the small town of Winterset, Iowa, he entered the world weighing a hefty 13 pounds, as reported by the local newspaper, the Winterset Madisonian. His parents, Clyde Leonard Morrison and Mary Alberta Brown, known as Molly, came from modest Midwestern roots. Clyde was a pharmacist of Scottish, Scotch-Irish, English, and Irish descent, with ancestors tracing back to the Isle of Lewis in Scotland, and emigrants who fought in the American Civil War. Molly hailed from Lancaster County, Nebraska, and the family adhered to Presbyterian values. Little did anyone know that this boy, initially named Marion Robert, though some later accounts mistakenly called him Marion Michael, would grow up to embody the rugged individualism of the American frontier on the silver screen. The Morrison family's early years were marked by financial struggles and frequent moves. Clyde's health issues, stemming from a weak lung, prompted the family to seek a drier climate. In 1914, they relocated to Palmdale, California, a dusty desert town where Clyde attempted to farm on a 10-acre plot. The harsh conditions proved challenging. The family raised goats and chickens, but droughts and poor soil led to failure. By 1916, they moved again, this time to Glendale, a burgeoning suburb of Los Angeles at 404 Isabel Street. Here, Clyde resumed his work as a pharmacist, and young Marion began to shape his identity. It was in Glendale that he acquired the nickname that would define him, Little Duke, bestowed by a local fireman who often saw the boy walking with his massive Airedale Terrier named Duke. Marion preferred Duke over his given name, which he found too feminine, and the moniker stuck for life, eventually becoming synonymous with his larger-than-life persona. Growing up in Southern California during the early 20th century offered Duke a blend of small-town simplicity and emerging Hollywood glamour. He attended Wilson Middle School and then Glendale Union High School, where he excelled both academically and athletically. Standing tall at over 6 feet by his teens, he was a star on the football team, helping lead them to a league championship in 1924. He was also president of the Latin Society, a member of the debating team, and a contributor to the school newspaper's sports column. Before we move forward, what's your favorite John Wayne movie? Let us know in the comments. Outside of school, Duke worked odd jobs, including in an ice cream shop owned by a man who shot horses for Hollywood studios. This exposure to the film world sparked an early interest, though his ambitions initially leaned toward a military career. He applied to the U.S. Naval Academy, but was rejected due to subpar grades in certain subjects. Instead, in 1925, he enrolled at the University of Southern California on a football scholarship, majoring in pre-law and joining the Sigma Chi fraternity and the Trojan Knights. At USC, Duke's athletic prowess shone under legendary coach Howard Jones. He played as a tackle on the varsity team, contributing to their success. However, fate intervened during a body surfing outing at Balboa Beach in the summer of 1926. A powerful wave slammed him against the sand, breaking his collarbone. Fearing the loss of his scholarship, Duke hid the injury from Coach Jones, but his performance suffered and he was eventually benched. Without the scholarship funds, he couldn't afford tuition and was forced to drop out after his sophomore year. This setback, while devastating, inadvertently steered him toward Hollywood. Through connections from Coach Jones, who had ties to Western star Tom Mix, Duke landed summer jobs at Fox Film Corporation as a prop boy and extra. It was here that he met director John Ford, a relationship that would prove pivotal. Ford, impressed by the young man's build and demeanor, began casting him in small roles, marking the humble beginnings of a legendary career. Duke's entry into films was gradual and unglamorous. Starting in 1926, he appeared in uncredited bits, such as a Yale football player in Brown of Harvard and a guard in Bartley's The Magnificent. He worked behind the scenes, moving furniture and props, earning a meager wage. His first on-screen credit came in 1929's Words and Music, where he was billed as Duke Morrison. During this time, he drew inspiration from real-life figures. He later claimed his signature walk, talk, and tough guy persona were modeled after Wyatt Earp, whom he met through Tom Mix. Earp, the famed lawman, shared stories of the Old West, fueling Duke's imagination. In 1930, director Raoul Walsh spotted the strapping 23-year-old moving studio equipment and cast him in his first leading role in The Big Trail. This ambitious epic, shot in the innovative 70mm grandeur widescreen process, followed a wagon train across the American Southwest. Walsh suggested the stage name Anthony Wayne after the Revolutionary War general, but Fox executive Winfield Sheehan deemed it too Italian. They settled on John Wayne, and his salary jumped to $105 a week. Filmed on location with hundreds of extras, the movie showcased Wayne's natural charisma, but it flopped commercially due to the Great Depression and theaters' reluctance to adopt the new format. Despite the failure, Wayne's performance as Breck Coleman earned praise, with one critic noting his rugged authenticity. The 1930s were a grind for Wayne, a decade of low-budget westerns that honed his craft but offered little stardom. After The Big Trail, he was demoted to B-movies at studios like Monogram and Republic Pictures. He starred in serials and quickies such as the Three Musketeers series, churning out up to 8 films a year. Titles like Riders of Destiny, 1933, where he played a singing cowboy, and The Lucky Texan, 1934, built his reputation as a reliable action hero. These films, often shot in a week for under $10,000, featured formulaic plots of outlaws, sheriffs, and frontier justice. Wayne rode horses, fired guns, and delivered lines with a drawl that became his trademark. He later reflected on this period, saying, "I made a lot of pictures that weren't very good, but I learned my trade." Amid the professional hustle, personal life took root. In 1933, he married Josephine Alicia Sines, a devout Catholic from a prominent Panamanian family. They met at a USC dance, and despite her father's initial disapproval of Wayne's Protestant background and acting ambitions, they wed on June 24, 1933. The couple had 4 children: Michael in 1934, Mary Antonia Tony in 1936, Patrick in 1939, and Melinda in 1940. Marriage brought stability, but Wayne's workaholic nature strained the relationship. Wayne's breakthrough arrived in 1939 with Stagecoach, directed by his mentor, John Ford. Ford, who had teased Wayne for years about his B-movie rut, finally gave him the role of the Ringo Kid, an escaped convict seeking revenge. Shot in Monument Valley, the film's stunning landscapes and taut storytelling made it a classic. Wayne's entrance, spinning a Winchester rifle, became iconic, and critics hailed him as a star. The movie's success, earning 7 Oscar nominations, catapulted Wayne to A-list status. He later said of Ford, "He made a man out of me." The 1940s brought wartime roles, though Wayne himself did not serve. Classified 3A for family deferment and rejected for enlistment due to his age and old injury, he toured bases and starred in propaganda films like Flying Tigers, 1942, and The Fighting Seabees, 1944. These portrayed him as the epitome of American heroism, boosting morale. Off-screen, his marriage to Josephine crumbled amid rumors of affairs, leading to a divorce in 1945. He quickly remarried Esperanza Chata Bauer, a Mexican actress, on January 17, 1946. But their union was tumultuous, marked by jealousy and alcohol-fueled fights, ending in divorce in 1954. Post-World War II, Wayne's career soared through collaborations with Ford and Howard Hawks. In Ford's Fort Apache, 1948, he played a cavalry captain opposite Henry Fonda, kicking off the cavalry trilogy that included She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, 1949, and Rio Grande, 1950. These films explored themes of duty and sacrifice, with Wayne's characters embodying stoic leadership. Red River, 1948, directed by Hawks, showcased a darker side. As cattle baron Tom Dunson, he delivered a nuanced performance of ambition turning tyrannical, clashing with co-star Montgomery Clift. Critics praised it as one of his best, and Wayne called it the most important picture I ever made. The 1950s solidified his icon status. In The Quiet Man, 1952, Ford's romantic comedy set in Ireland, Wayne played a retired boxer returning to his roots, earning his first Oscar nomination. The film's fistfight scene became legendary. The Searchers, 1956, another Ford masterpiece, is often cited as Wayne's finest work. As Ethan Edwards, a Civil War veteran obsessively hunting his kidnapped niece, he portrayed racism and vengeance with haunting depth. Director Martin Scorsese later said, "It's a film about the American character, full of contradictions." Wayne's personal life evolved amid his rising fame. After divorcing Chata, he married Pilar Palete, a Peruvian actress, on November 1, 1954, the same day his second divorce finalized. They met on a film set in Peru, and their marriage lasted until his death, producing 3 children: Aisa in 1956, John Ethan in 1962, and Marisa in 1966. Wayne was a devoted father, often bringing his kids to sets, but his conservative politics increasingly defined his public image. A staunch Republican and anti-communist, he supported the House Un-American Activities Committee and co-founded the Motion Picture Alliance for the Preservation of American Ideals. In the 1950s, he backed blacklisting suspected communists in Hollywood. His views extended to civil rights. In a controversial 1971 Playboy interview, he stated, "I believe in white supremacy until the blacks are educated to a point of responsibility," sparking backlash that persists today. Wayne also campaigned for politicians like Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan, viewing himself as a patriot upholding traditional values. The 1960s brought epic projects and health challenges. Wayne directed and starred in The Alamo, 1960, a passion project about the Texas Revolution, playing Davy Crockett. Despite mixed reviews and financial woes, it cost $12 million. The film earned Oscar nominations. He followed with The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, 1962, opposite James Stewart, exploring the myth of the West with the line, "When the legend becomes fact." Print the legend. In 1964, Wayne faced a life-threatening diagnosis: lung cancer, attributed to his 6-pack-a-day smoking habit. He underwent surgery to remove his left lung and several ribs, declaring himself cancer-free afterward. Undeterred, he continued working, starring in Harm's Way, 1965, and The Sons of Katie Elder, 1965. His Oscar win came in 1969 for True Grit as the one-eyed, drunken Marshal Rooster Cogburn. The role, a departure from his usual stoicism, showcased humor and grit, earning him the Academy Award for Best Actor. He reprised it in Rooster Cogburn 1975 with Katharine Hepburn. Wayne's later years blended triumph and trial. Films like Rio Lobo 1970 and The Cowboys 1972, where he mentored young actors, reflected his enduring appeal. The Shootist 1976, his final film, was eerily prophetic. As a dying gunfighter, he confronted mortality, mirroring his own battles. By then, cancer had returned, spreading to his stomach. Wayne remained active, receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom from Jimmy Carter in 1979, who called him a symbol of many of the most basic qualities that made America great. On June 11, 1979, at age 72, John Wayne died at UCLA Medical Center in Los Angeles, surrounded by family. His passing made global headlines, with the New York Times obituary noting, "John Wayne dead of cancer, on Coast," at 72. He was buried at Pacific View Memorial Park in Corona del Mar, California, under a simple marker reading, "Tomorrow is the most important thing in life." John Wayne's legacy is multifaceted, a blend of adoration and controversy. He appeared in over 170 films, topping box office polls for decades and embodying the American dream through roles that celebrated self-reliance and heroism. The John Wayne Cancer Foundation, established in his honor, funds research and awareness. Posthumously, he received the Congressional Gold Medal in 1980, inscribed with John Wayne, American. Yet, his political stances and remarks on race have drawn scrutiny. In 2020, USC removed an exhibit honoring him amid protests, and calls emerged to rename John Wayne Airport. Despite this, his influence endures in cinema, inspiring directors like Quentin Tarantino and Steven Spielberg. Wayne once said, "I've always followed my father's advice. He told me, first, to always keep my word, and second, to never insult anybody unintentionally. If I insult you, you can be goddamn sure I intend to." This unapologetic spirit defines the man who, from humble Iowa, beginnings as Marion Morrison, became the eternal Duke of Hollywood. Throughout his life, Wayne's friendships and rivalries added color to his story. His bond with John Ford was like father-son, fraught with tough love. Ford once yelled at him on set, "Can't you walk instead of skipping like a goddamn fairy?" Yet, their collaborations produced timeless art. With Maureen O'Hara, his frequent co-star in films like The Quiet Man, he shared a platonic romance that lit up the screen. O'Hara later eulogized him as the greatest guy. Wayne's love for the sea was another passion. He owned a yacht named the Wild Goose, converted from a World War II minesweeper, where he hosted parties with stars like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. His Freemason affiliation, rising to Master Mason, reflected his interest in brotherhood and tradition. Politically, his anti-communism peaked during the McCarthy era. He narrated documentaries warning of Soviet threats and supported Barry Goldwater's 1964 presidential bid. In his films, Wayne often portrayed the moral compass of America. Sands of Iwo Jima, 1949, earned him his first Oscar nod as a tough sergeant molding Marines, a role that resonated with veterans. Hondo, 1953, shot in 3D, depicted him as a cavalry scout in Apache territory, emphasizing honor amid conflict. The 1970s saw him in Chisholm, 1970, and Big Jake, 1971, maintaining his Western dominance even as the genre evolved. Off-screen, Wayne's generosity was legendary. He quietly donated to charities and helped struggling actors. His battle with cancer humanized the icon. After his 1964 surgery, he quipped, "I licked the big C," inspiring many. But the disease's return in 1978 forced hospitalizations, yet he attended the 1979 Oscars to present Best Picture, receiving a standing ovation. Reflecting on Wayne's impact, his films not only entertained but shaped cultural narratives. The Searchers delved into racism's toll, with Wayne's Ethan Edwards a flawed anti-hero whose quest ends in redemption. True Grit inspired remakes, including the Coen brothers' 2010 version. Wayne's voice, that gravelly drawl, and his imposing 6'4" frame made him unmistakable. He influenced fashion too, popularizing cowboy hats and boots beyond the screen. Controversies aside, his philanthropy through the Cancer Foundation has saved lives, fulfilling his wish to help others. As biographers note, Wayne was more than an actor. He was America personified, flawed, resilient, and unyielding. Expanding on his childhood, the move to California exposed young Duke to diverse influences. In Palmdale, he learned to ride horses on the family ranch, skills that served him well in westerns. Glendale's proximity to studios fueled dreams, though his parents emphasized education. At USC, he partied with fraternity brothers but maintained discipline on the field. The injury that ended football was a blow, but it opened doors. Without it, he might have pursued law instead of lights. Early film work was labor-intensive. As a prop man, he hauled sets for stars like Greta Garbo, gaining insider knowledge. The Big Trail remains a footnote yet a foundation. Shot in harsh conditions, Wayne endured freezing nights and learned stunt work. Its failure taught resilience. He said, "You learn more from flops than hits." The B-Western era was prolific. In Sagebrush Trail, 1933, he honed quick-draw skills. By Stagecoach, he was ready for prime time. His chemistry with Claire Trevor, electric. WW2 films like They Were Expendable, 1945, showed vulnerability as his PT boat commander faced loss. Personal turmoil mirrored career highs. Josephine's Catholicism clashed with Wayne's lifestyle. Affairs with Marlene Dietrich rumored. Chadda's marriage was stormy. She accused him of infidelity, leading to a messy split. Pilar brought calm, though they separated briefly in 1973. Children pursued Hollywood. Michael produced films. Patrick acted. Ethan became a stuntman. Politically, Wayne's conservatism stemmed from his upbringing. He opposed the New Deal, viewing it as government overreach. His support for Vietnam War made him a target for protesters, yet he visited troops, earning respect. The Playboy interview haunted him. He later clarified, but stood by core beliefs. Later films like The Green Berets, 1978, which he directed, promoted pro-war views, drawing criticism. McHugh, 1974, experimented with urban cop roles, but westerns were his forte. The Shootist was meta, with co-stars Ron Howard and Lauren Bacall praising his professionalism despite pain. Death came after a valiant fight. His last words reportedly, "Of course I know who you are. You're my girl. I love you," to daughter Isa. Funerals were private, but tributes poured in. Legacy evolves. Museums in Winterset and Fort Worth preserve artifacts. Despite debates, Wayne's films endure, reminding us of cinema's power to mythologize history.